did you prepare for this project? How did you prepare for your role?
I play the part of Florine, which is Levin Rambin's aunt, sort of, but I am from the Ozarks, so for me it wasn't that big a stretch to like get into that whole, voice that I needed to be. Honestly, a lot of the people in the movie, the names are based on some of my actual relatives. And Kip Collins is my second cousin. But we met through the movie. But like in the movie, my dead husband was Red. In real life, Red was my mom's first cousin.
Wow.
So
that's like crazy.
Yeah, so it is really. Winter's Bone was the same way, actually. That was kind of based on some of my relatives. So I come from a long line of Ozarks people. I wasn't raised there, but my family goes back like 4 generations in the Ozarks. So to be,
So do you think that you're going to stay in the Ozarks, or do you plan to move on out here?
I actually did move out here about a year and a half ago. I live about 2 miles that way, and I go back and forth. I still have like my farm in the Ozarks and a couple of businesses there. My 85-year-old mother runs one for me so that I can be out here. She's pretty sharp, and so I just go back and forth. I'm pretty fortunate. I get the best of both worlds. I get to live out here part-time and then go back to my farm and
do both. You get to live both lives.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Really, I couldn't ask for much more than that, I think.
That's a good balance. That's a good balance. And then what was your favorite memory from set? Like what was like the funniest thing or the craziest thing?
Well, the prettiest thing would be hard to say because that's just my hometown. So, for me, that's just where we live, and I'm used, and I help them find some of the locations to shoot.
Yeah.
So there's so many beautiful places in the Ozarks. Probably the funniest thing for me was to work with people from Los Angeles who weren't used to being in the country. and they're not used to the humidity and the bugs and, all of the things that we're just so used to.
Yeah,
and
Rhonda told us about the ticks.
Yeah, and that's just part of life. On our farm, people say, "Oh, what do you raise animals?" I said, "We raise ticks on our farm." So for us, you grow up there, you're just used to that. Ticks are just something you just get used to. And then, the people from LA come out and they're all covered like in mosquito nets and they're spraying all the time, and I'm walking around in flip-flops and shorts going, "What are you guys so worried about?" But that was fun. And, but for me it was, I had never been involved in a film project, so the whole process was really exciting. And to get to work with somebody like Levin, who is so talented, and she and I had to work closely in some pretty emotional scenes, and I was really intimidated, to walk onto a set with people like her and Jim Perrick and Taylor, and she really taught me a lot. Working with her and Rama was great at bringing a new person out and getting, helping me figure out how to get into that character. Even though the character herself wasn't that big of a stretch, acting for me was a stretch. So, I was just lucky. I got to work with some great people.
So what are some of the exercises that you did to help get you to that point? Because you said they were very emotional scenes. So what are some of the things you helped to get you there?
I've never had any actual training, so I don't. There's probably a name for what I did, but I would, I have relatives who might fit some of the situations in the film, and so if I needed to get upset about, Billy in the film, I would think of my relative who is so much like him. This is a very authentic film when it comes to life in the Ozarks and what can happen to people, what happens to children, what happens to people who get into drugs, what meth can do to you. So I have real people in my life who I would just think about them and what's happened to them, and then I would get upset and cry, and then I would just try to hold that feeling as I went into the actual shooting. I would just think about that person, and it was real. It felt real because it is real.
That's super smart. I'm not an actor, but that sounds right. I think that's what they do. It
works for me.
I'm guessing. I don't know.
Method acting. I hear about method acting. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm not an actor. I don't know.
All I know is the advantage of getting into acting at a later stage in life is that you have so much life experience to draw from. that, you know, whatever scenario you're in, there's a good chance you might have actually experienced that in real life, so you can just relive that moment. You know, if you need to be sad, you have sad things to think about. So, you know, you just draw from your own life. You know, I've never actually murdered anybody, so that might be a hard role to have to, you know, that one I would have to really get, but not that I do in the movie, I'm just saying. If I had to play like a serial killer, that might require some other skill set that I may or may not have. But
that's good.
I'd be willing to try. You know?
That's fair. So finally, what is next for you? What are you planning to do next?
I'm working on a documentary right now that is taking place in the Ozarks. We have a lot of really cool stories in the Ozarks about, you know, sometimes we see the bad side of life in the Ozarks. You know, that's probably the interesting thing, you know, from when it comes to an entertainment perspective. But I want to do documentaries about the really entrepreneurial spirit, the rags to riches stories that, you know, like the guys who started O'Reilly Automotive are from the Ozarks, or the Bass Pro Shops guys from the Ozarks, and a company that my family was involved with that became a big deal. So that's my next project, is telling those stories. My background is in like producing, writing, directing television, and I was a news anchor and reporter and blah blah blah. But so I'm going to get back into that side, and you know, I'm still doing some acting. I'm out here just doing a little bit here and there. So I just played Nicole Simpson's mother in a film called The Haunting. So
congratulations on that. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much, Toni. It was a pleasure to meet you. Congratulations, and I look forward to hearing about your documentary. Yeah.